Okay, hello everyone and welcome back to World of Tanks Blitz, and today we're going to be doing another which is better video. I haven't done one of these for a while, it feels like. But these are videos where I just take two very similar tanks. One could be premium, one could not be, or they could both be premiums, or they could both be tech tree tanks. And I basically compare them and see, in my opinion, which of the two tanks is better. And looking at the Churchill III, you might guess which tank I'm comparing this to, which is the Churchill I. Now, up until now, the tanks I've been doing have been either both premium tanks or both stock tanks, because tech tree tanks rather, because you can, you can get one by paying, one without paying. But here I'm just here to explain which of these two tanks is better, and therefore which of these tanks you should go for, whether you should go for the longer grind and get the Churchill I, or whether you should just go for the quick pay with gold and get the Churchill III. So we are going to be comparing these two tanks. Both of them have got the same provisions, consumables and equipment loadouts, as well as 100% crew, obviously. And I'm going to be saying which of these tanks is better in my opinion and explaining it. And which tank is better, Churchill III or Churchill I? It's the Mark I Churchill. The tech tree tank is better than the premium tank in this instance, in my opinion, and I will explain why. So, both tanks have got the same HP, 700 HP. They're both heavy tanks, they're both Churchills, Mark I, Mark III, doesn't really matter. They've both got, this has got slightly more HP because premium tank. They both have got enhanced armor, so they have the slightly extra armor stat. But yeah, neither of them have got the improved assembly. This has got 700, this has got 840. It's a premium tank. They tend to have sort of things like this. But then we come to the armor. The armor is the first major point that makes me want the Churchill I over the Churchill III. The HP obviously buff for the Churchill III is nice. However, 92 all round, 92, 92, 80 turret armor, 185, 80, 53 hull armor is not as good when compared to the Mark I Churchill. 127, 90, 90, 187, 67, 53. The Mark III Churchill has got slightly more side armor. It's got pretty much the same hull armor, but the Mark I Churchill has got 127 bills of frontal turret armor, and that's what's important. As well as having slightly more rear armor, but that's rear armor, so that doesn't really matter. But yeah, the Mark I Churchill just has better frontal hull armor. Or better frontal turret armor. It doesn't look like it has any sort of model armor package. No, it's got no extra frontal welded on armor like this. So, in theory, you'd think it was the same. But no, the Mark III has just got worse turret armor, and that's a problem because lots of tanks can get through it, especially when you're going up against tier 6s. And in that case, against tier 5s, 92 mils of armor is good. However, 127 mils of armor is better, and up against tier 6 tanks, which you will be seeing because you're a tier 5 tank, this thing needs the extra armor is just nice. The 182 versus 185 versus 187, I can't remember, mils of frontal armor doesn't really count because it only counts this. In this case, it's around the 3-inch close support howitzer. In this case, it's around the base of hull machine gun. It doesn't particularly matter. Because it's still counting this as the most frontal armor that it has. The actual frontal armor is probably 90 mils or something, I don't know. But yeah, that's covering the driver's hatch in both cases, on both the Mark III and the Mark I Churchill. This is the actual hull armor. This is what the game counts as the actual frontal armor. So it's a bit misleading there. This is the actual section of 185 mils of hull armor, which can get you bounces, don't get me wrong. But yeah, the side armor, for side scraping, yes, the Mark III Churchill is better. However, the frontal turret armor is the thing that I'm most important about because it's the bit that's going to reveal of your tank first, isn't it? If you're poking out of cover, the turret is going to be the first thing that enemies are going to shoot at. And against tier 4s and some tier 5 tanks, especially at range, having 127 mils of hull armor of turret armor compared to 92 mils of frontal turret armor for the Mark III Churchill is just better. It's just a superior amount of armor. Mobility-wise, the Mark I Churchill is slightly better average speed, slightly better power to weight, the same sort of hull and turret traverse with the slightly better engine, I think. Just 10.3 power to weight and 24 kilometers an hour versus 22 kilometers an hour and 9.5 power to weight, and it's got the same turret and hull traverse. So whilst the mobility on both of these tanks isn't great, they're pretty slow, especially on rough terrain. The Mark I Churchill is slightly better, but that's a minor point. The minor point here. The main thing is that armour and the gun, which is what I will be going into. This has got 8 degrees of gun depression, which is good compared to the Mark I, which has got 4 degrees. It's pretty terrible, the Mark I's gun depression. And whilst yes, the gun depression is good, the gun is the thing to look at. The Mark I Churchill just has a far superior gun. Now, yes, I know some people will be saying, well, use the 6-pounder. Before they introduced swappable guns for premium tanks, certain premium tanks such as the KV-5, IS-6, Churchill III, the 6-pounder is all you got. And yes, the 6-pounder is a good gun. However, I prefer using the 76 ZIS 96 because it's got the better alpha damage, and you don't really lose out too much in comparison to DPM. DPM, you get an extra 6 DPM, which is nothing. Quite honestly, it's absolutely nothing. So even if you do put on the 6-pounder, you're still losing out in certain aspects compared to the 75mm high velocity that's mounted on the Mark I Churchill. The high velocity is the undisputed best gun, in my opinion at least, for the Mark I Churchill. It's got better DPM, it's got better dispersion, it's got better average pen, better average damage. It just doesn't have as good gun depression as the quickfire 6-pounder Mark V. But the 75mm Vickers high velocity just has got excellent penetration for a tier 5 heavy, of all things. 145mm of average pen, 160 standard, 75mm damage, 0.34 accuracy, 3.9 second aim time, 1559 DPM, 6 second reload time. There's not really too many bad stats about the 75mm high velocity. And compared to the ZIS 96 or the Mark V 6-pounder, you're losing out in some aspect with both of these guns. Both of these guns have not got as much penetration as the Vickers high velocity, which is again a problem for tier 6s. One of them doesn't do as much damage, but it does have the better reload time to compensate. That's kind of how it is. They both have got better gun depression, unless you're using the 6-pounder on the Mark I Churchill, in which case the Mark I Churchill still beats this because it has better gun depression. It gets 9 degrees instead of 6. And yeah, it's just generally a better gun, specifically for dealing with better armoured tier 5s, but also tier 6 tanks, which you will see. There's many heavy tanks, and even medium tanks, that the Mark III Churchill just can't penetrate at tier 6, with either gun. The 76mm ZIS is the worst gun in most people's opinion, I'm sure. At least last I checked, it was the gun that people didn't like. 0.35 accuracy, which is decent, 1600 DPM, which is better than the Mark I Churchill with a better reload time, but the average pen 155mm with APCR is nearly the same as what the high velocity gets with its standard armor piercing. Standard AP with this thing is 110, which is, it's alright for a tier 5 heavy. That's sort of on par with the T14 for one, and there's a couple of other heavy tanks that have got this sort of penetration. But yeah, it's not good when going up against tier 6s, as I'm sure people will probably know. It's got the same 160 average damage for, a 75mm. And yeah, the DPM is good, and the gun depression at 8 degrees is actually good. Comparing it to the Mark V 6-pounder, the Mark V 6-pounder does get better AP and APCR pen, but it does have that 90 damage for being a 6-pounder. Still gets 1600 DPM, nearly 1700, 0.37 dispersion and 3.8 second accuracy though. 3.8 second aim time is the big problem. Um, it's just not quite as accurate as the high velocity. And the thing with these low damage, high rate of fire guns is that they do require you to be out of cover. Actually looking at an enemy in order to damage them for an extended period of time in order to rack up that damage. And then that brings us back to the point of the turret armor. 92 mils of turret armor, you're just not quite as survivable with that, even with the HP buff, which offsets it. But even so, the Mark I Churchill with its upgraded turret does have better turret armor than the Mark III Churchill. And if you are using the 6-pounder on the Mark III Churchill, you need to expose yourself for longer periods of time in order to actually hit things. And with 92mm of turret armor, especially against tier 6s, even lights and mediums at tier 6 can get through your 92 mils of turret armor. So you're just going to be whiling away shots with tier 6 tanks which have got better DPM than you, and you don't really have a chance of, hiding yourself or mitigating that damage with 92mm of turret armor. So, yeah, those are the two big points: the gun and the armor. The mobility is much the same. The armor is sort of hit and miss, but mostly, it's that turret armor which is the big problem. Big old derp guns can get right through that frontal turret. They still can with the Churchill Mark 1, but even so, things like KV2s with their HE can sometimes penetrate your frontal turret. Citation probably needed on that, but either way, the 75mm high velocity is one of the best guns at tier 5. It's better than either of the guns that the Mark III Churchill has got on it, and I know that there's going to be some people defending the 6-pounder in the Mark III Churchill, and that's perfectly fine. I understand that there are people who like the 6-pounders, and the 6-pounders are good. Low damage but high rate of fire guns like that do have their place. They are good, but in my opinion and for how I feel, I prefer alpha damage for actually killing a target rather than bleed damage over time, as it were, like 6-pounders have, and 2-pounders, stuff like that. But yeah, equipment-wise, as you can see, I've got exactly the same layout for both of them. Both of them have also got a crew stats buff and a mobility buff. They both have got the same consumables, so they are exactly the same, just tech tree versus premium. And for a premium, it's an alright tank, but if you wanted a Churchill and you wanted it to be a good Churchill, the Mark I Churchill is the way to go. Again, like I said, just for the turret armor and the high velocity gun, just the Mark I is the better tank. And I'm now going to show you some replays. I've actually got 3 replays here, 2 for the Mark III Churchill and 1 for the Mark I Churchill, and I'll show you the Mark III first, and then we'll get into the Mark I's replay. So yeah, let's play the tapes. So the first one for the Mark III Churchill. Both of the Mark III Churchill's games are in tier 6 because I seem to be getting matched with them a lot more than I was with the Mark I for some reason. But yeah, we're going to be here, Oasis Palms. It's a tier 6 game. I'm going to be heading for the town, as you can see here, with the KV2. KV2 gets spotted. I'm expecting he probably got spotted by a medium tank or a light tank over there. So I'm still going to push up. He spots a KV2 and a Type 64, who we will be trading shots with later. Mediums start getting spotted over on the other flank, and I don't want to go any further because there's scary tier 6s over there. So I see if I can hit some of these mediums, but no, there's sand dunes in the way. There's an easy 4 over there, 34 shielded, Matilda 4, and yeah, pretty much all alone over here with a KV2 and a heavy M6, I think it is, behind. Speaking of an M6, as you can see, absolutely no chance of penetrating him with 110 mils of penetration. So switching to APCR and do manage to get through the side of him. Don't really have any shots on the KV2, so yeah, swap back to armor piercing and just break his track, but no one really has a way of hitting him. There's that VK who's going to start getting a bit more annoying. I managed to finish off the KV2, which is very nice. Type 64 puts a side shot into me. And then here comes the VK. We can at least get through the VK pretty easily with armor piercing, which is nice. But yeah, unfortunately he goes behind a building. Still keeping a wary eye on the other medium, that Type 64, who yeah, is going to start becoming a problem. I advance a little bit, but don't have any shots on him. However, I do see the M6 advancing. He fires and luckily misses. But yeah, I do manage to put a nice shot into his side using regular AP, not even APCR, but here's the Type 64, comes over the top, puts a shot into me. I luckily damaged my ammo rack with his first shot. Well, my first shot rather. And yes, in an instance like this, the 6-pounder would be better, however, it's a hit and miss gun. It's situational. Here comes the VK, bounces a shot off my side, so the armour at least is decent enough. It is a Churchill, they're pretty heavily armoured. Manages to blow off my track again, then there's that Type 64. Put one more shot into him, he bounces off me again, but then the VK manages to finish me off, unfortunately. So yeah, that was it. I sort of went back to the garage after that. But yeah, 1100 damage dealt, victory, second class mastery, second on the team. 9 hits, 9 shots fired, 9 hits, 9 pens, which was lucky. We did do a decent amount of critical damage, and we did blow off the tracks of 3 enemy tanks, which is nice. But yeah, let me show you the other game that I had, and that is on Dead Rail. It again, like I said, tier 6 game. We've got some of the Polish heavies on our team. Box tank. They have a Poodle who we'll see just doing a. He just charges into our team, and I don't know why, but yeah, you'll see the Poodle very shortly. Yeah, I'm decisive rather of where to go. I thought nobody was going to A, but then the Polish heavy sort of comes to A, so I'm like, I might as well support him whilst I'm here. But yeah, there's the Poodle. Poodle gets spotted. Just charging in, why not? I put a side shot into him, which is nice, and then managed to get another side shot into him, which damages his ammo rack, fuel tank rather, actually. And yeah, he's sort of this far in, so he decides might as well go for it. My next shot, unfortunately, I think it might have hit the friendly T-34, but I've messed around. I don't really have any more shots on the Poodle, so now I need to sort of get more forwards and assist the Polish heavy here. And yeah, he's already on half health. There's a KV-2, a BDR. I'm not sure whether the KV-2's got the derp gun. He probably does, but let's see if he's got the 152 howitzer. And yeah, roll around the corner, and oh, yep, there he is. He does. I put one shot into his turret, but yeah, in a one-on-one trade there, I'm not going to win. But I did take the shot for the Polish heavy, which is what I wanted to do really, but to try and keep him alive for a bit longer. But he's already getting shot at. I take a fire. I take a shot from a Hellcat there, and then I take a shot from the T-34 shielded, that is. And yeah, I'm sort of backing out because the KV-2's coming on. He manages to splash damage, not do anything on the Polish heavy, which is interesting. And yeah, the Polish heavy puts a shot into him. I put a shot into him. He puts another shot into him, and then I manage to finish him off. Very nice. Then the BDR comes around the corner. Again, Polish heavy manages to put a shot into him. BDR bounces, and then he gets finished off, and I'm like, wow, how have you survived? Unfortunately, T-34 shielded is a bit too much for me to take. Without using APCR, I can't get through his side-sloped armour. Not at the angle he was coming at, anyway. And then, yeah, I missed. And then, yeah, there you go. As you can see, angled side, have to switch to APCR to get through his frontal armour. 75mm of a high-velocity Vickers will probably get through. But unfortunately, yeah. Hellcat finishes us off. Got the Firefly, the box tank. Oh yeah, he comes down and rams him and then just sort of derps him in the face, which is quite interesting. But yeah, so we did manage to win that game as well, which is very nice. Not as good as the other game, only a third class mastery. 853 damage dealt, 20,000 credits. But yeah, let's. Yeah, I need sort of mid on the team. So yeah, let's get into the Mark I Churchill game that I have, which is it's a good game. Let me tell you that. So here we are, Copperfield. It's a nice tier 5 game. I was expecting to not be able to go up here because no one else was coming up here apart from one guy. What is it? Not the Hellcat. Who's up here? The M8A1. There you go. I knew it was an American turret attack destroyer. Yeah, the M8A1's coming up here with me. All the mediums and lights are going on the other side, and then here's the BDR. Nice shot there, nice and straight, goes right into him, damages his gun block. But yeah, unfortunately not quite fast enough to reload in time. And then I sort of sit here for a bit, waiting to see if he pops out his head, but he does not. Luckily that is a stock BDR, because that is a stock turret, or at least one of the... It's not the fully upgraded BDR, I don't think. Yeah, I sort of start pushing up, heading from cover to cover, trying to get some side shots onto all of the mediums and light tanks that are over there. But unfortunately, yeah, no shots on them. BDR gets spotted again, and then there's an M3 Lee, and the poor M3 Lee here. First shot fires and misses, and the 75 high velocity can just cut through his frontal armour like a knife through butter. Next shot bounces off my turret. There you go, strong turret for you. Nice shot right into his little turret up top, and yeah, unfortunately he reverses too hard into an obstacle, and another nice shot into his turret finishes him off. But yeah, there's the BDR. Put another nice shot into him, but he manages to get one into me, but never mind. M8A1 gets spotted over there. Nice side shot onto him. You saw the gun depression, which is one of the problems with the Churchill. When I was going for that BDR, sort of raise its head. Gun depression on this tank really is terrible. But yeah, there's that BDR again. Don't have any shots on him, unfortunately, but I do get spotted. However, it allows me to come right around the corner and bam, finish off the Crusader. BDR comes around the corner again. I put a shot into him, finish him off after the M8A1 softens him up. Come around the corner again. Was going to go for the Valentine, but instead put a shot into that M8A1. Unfortunately, he gets one into me, but never mind. Try and get a shot onto that Valentine, drop down, finish off the Valentine. And now I can sort of keep track of the last one, which is that M7. Unfortunately, my first shot there misses, then my next shot also misses, as I'm trying to lead the target. That one actually ricochets rather, there you go. Bounces off him. And then he comes around the corner again, I'm leading the shot, and bang, I managed to finish him off as well. It says it's a ricochet, but we finished him off either way. And that's a nice victory. The Mark I Churchill, 1500 damage done, 5 kills. Look at all of these ribbons and things. Second class mastery, top gun, high caliber, Radley Walters. It's been a while since I've got a Radley Walters, let's be honest. But yeah, nearly 25,000 credits. It wasn't my first win of the day. Neither of those were my first win of the day. Actually, I think the first game that I showed you in the Mark III Churchill was first win. But yeah, 14 shots fired, 13 hits, 12 pens. Yeah, the gun, absolutely no problems, even against something tougher like the BDR. Frontal on it can be a bit tricky, but yeah, just cut through everything. Even the Lee can sometimes have tricky armour to get through, but yeah, the high velocity just cuts through it nice and easy. And yeah, Radley Walters for the Mark III Churchill, Mark I Churchill rather. And yeah, it's just this is just a better tank. It's slightly faster, but that's mitigated. You know, that's very little. Better frontal turret armour, a better gun. It's just generally a better tank. If you really want a Churchill, go for the Mark I. It leads you through to the Mark VI Churchill, which is an even better tank now at tier 6. And honestly, this is just far better than the Mark III Churchill to get. Even though I do love my Churchills, and I love that we've got 4, technically 5 if you count the Black Prince Churchills in the game. Yeah, the Mark I Churchill is definitely supreme out of the Churchills at tier 5. So yeah, there you go. That's my opinions. I'm sure I'll get some people in the comments saying how it's not a fair comparison because I'm not using the 6-pounder on this thing, but I just thought 76mm gun, 75mm gun, you know, it's a closer comparison. And yeah, that's the comparison. So yeah, I'll thank you all for watching, and goodbye.